on that panel of clients, we have a panel of experienced, respected leaders on the supplier side of market research, and similar to and it's called Marketing in Our Unique Industry. They're going to share with you their perspectives on maybe some of the things we just heard, but also how they've been successful marketing for different and leading different types of companies in the research industry. You'll hear from a number of different perspectives. So, like the previous panel, I'm going to ask them each to say their name and their company and what their role is in their company.
Hi everyone, my name is Neil Skilowat. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners of Insights Consulting, and I run our New York office.
Hi, I'm Susan Griffin. I work for Brain Juicer, and my role is Global CMO.
David Rothstein, RTI Research. I'm the CEO, and I guess by default also the CMO for a company our size.
Hi, my name is Rob Ramirez. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Development for Schlesinger Associates. I realized from the last presentation listening to Frank, my title sounds too much like business development, so I have a learning already, and I don't think Frank is going to link into me. My charge at Schlesinger Associates is actually developing relationships with non-traditional clients, and I think that'll probably come up as part of our marketing today.
Good morning. My name is Susan Scarlett. I'm with Ganges, and you will be hearing from me a little bit later, actually shortly, so I'll leave it short there.
Thanks everyone, thanks for being here. So I wanted to ask you, how is marketing a research company different from and similar to marketing some other types of companies? We advise our clients on their marketing, but how is marketing a research company different from and similar to marketing a different type of product or service?
Okay, I'll take that one to begin with. It's a great question. And I'm actually going to get into that a little bit in 45 minutes here. But as you ask that question, Dana, I think to myself, I have worked in other industries before in marketing and on the peripherals. And researchers, and I think they know all too well, that they often look at their craft, traditionally speaking, and get a little inundated with their nomenclature and with their methodologies. And they know what they're doing, and they know what they need to do for their internal clients. And because they are doing the very research for marketers, when a marketer comes into the company and into the organization, they almost need to just take a little bit of their own medicine. And it's very difficult. Traditionally, it has been very difficult to do. And there have been humps and hurdles over the last 8 years. So I would say that their own bias and their own objectivity, or lack thereof, because they are the very ones doing what marketers need to hear, has been the greatest hurdle.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that for me, the biggest challenge, I work for a company that's probably at the bottom of the food chain, if you will, in the whole marketing research chain. And it really lies at the intersection. The challenge for me is at the intersection of two main factors. One that was brought up earlier by our keynote speaker, as far as like a lot of folks view our services, whether they be data collection facility or they be insight generation, really as a commodity market. So breaking away from that, that's really factor one. And factor two is that we need to market to such a multitude of stakeholders in the marketplace. By way of background, I came from the client side, went to the insight company side, down to the data collection side, so I guess kind of working the wrong way down the food chain. But actually, listening to the clients before, actually coming from the supplier side, I've actually gone the other way. It's worked out okay. But seriously, like all the different stakeholders in the marketplace creates a unique challenge because you're trying to bring a value proposition. For me, one of the biggest trends that I've seen in the marketplace for market research over the last 2 years or so has been the disaggregation of data collection. Meaning that companies, the end clients, are actually saying, hey, I want the insight firms to focus on the insights. And I actually want the data collection folks to focus on data collection. And guess what? I'm going to contract with you both. What that puts is those of us that are in that data collection space kind of in a unique position because now we're forming a triangle. And we need to create relationships beyond our traditional clients, which the Ipsos of the world and the brain juicers and so forth. That now we need to develop relationships with the end clients, the MetLifes, the ESPNs, and so forth. But at the same time, balancing our marketing so that it doesn't appear that we're competing against our traditional long-term, client base. So, all the way across, looking at the multitude of stakeholders combined with the fact that people still view our services as commodity really kind of create that unique challenge for me.
I think, especially for a smaller firm where we're 50 people, one of the challenges is on the one hand, you absolutely need a value proposition, to Lucy's point, the points earlier made. The challenge is that because we work within a company our size, just like others do, with a variety of different clients who are actually buying different things from us or different things from different people within our same company, you need to come up with that value proposition that on the one hand is meaningful and communicate something, but on the other hand is broad enough to cover the variety of things that we sell. So as a generalist company, we do have a menu of services, and what's interesting is from some clients see us as perhaps suppliers of quote-unquote cheap and cheerful research, which we've done especially back in recession, and then I've got other people selling ridiculously strategic segmentation studies that are really driving business at the highest levels. So the challenge from a marketing perspective is how do we communicate the brand in a way that makes both clients feel as though the company is able to provide at both ends of the spectrum.
I often talk about the fact that really, really good researchers are often very much introverted. They really they don't know how they're very smart. They're very concentrated, but they really don't have what I've often called the mutant gene. The ability to be able to engage and create some of the moments that our client panelists spoke about this morning. And particularly with smaller firms who may be founded by and led by researchers, bringing in the principles of marketing often just sounds like you're speaking some foreign language. And it's getting researchers comfortable with the notion of engaging with clients without saying, "May I have a brief, please?" And I really, it's funny, some of our smartest researchers, if you talk to them about their client engagement, they'll say, "Well, I can't reach out to a client and ask him for a meeting. I mean, he's very, very busy." And it's like, how did you ever get married? How did you cite the girl? How did you develop that moment where you said, "I want to go out with her, but I don't know her, but her sister dates my neighbor's next," you make contacts, you get engaged. It's the same principle, but it often is very, very foreign for those people whose core competency is research to develop comfort levels with marketing.
I look at it often, to continue the food analogy with a restaurant. Insights Consulting is a very ad hoc agency, boutique, be it of considerable size, if you want. And so, if you look at Marketing 101, it's I have to sell based on experience attributes. Just like a restaurant, you really only know once you go in and you've eaten. There's so many things you can look at. You can look at the menu, you can look at the context, so I can give you papers, I can do webinars, so the hardest, quote unquote, for us, and with some clients it works, with others it doesn't. Some clients are really open, and that's good. It takes a while, with others it goes very fast. It's about, quote unquote, getting in and then, showing what you do. And I really hate being invited for a capabilities presentation. I give a thought leadership session. We just like you guys, Brain Juicer, we present a lot. We assemble that and we organize not a conference but a little workshop. And yes, we do ask quite some time, but we also do invest and put skin in the game as of the beginning. And it's like, again, it's like a meal. It's like going to that restaurant and talk to the chef and the sous chef and the people that are in the kitchen. And like we have an approach If I go out, I do business development, but I do research too. And I know what I'm talking about. And there's certain things I don't know, but that's fine. I can always say to a client, you know what, I will bring in the expert, things like that. But I hardly ever have to say it because, we're at both ends. So I think the hardest thing for us is, since we're not a technology company, basically, we have state-of-the-art technology, but it's not our key selling point, is to bring across the intangible. That's the biggest challenge, and it just takes a while.
How are we doing collectively as an industry on marketing and explaining the brand market research? And how does interacting with that brand and kind of, to varying degrees, being under that umbrella, market research, how does that affect the marketing that you do?
Very, very shortly, I think we're not doing a great job. I think, again, the bigger companies are not present here, bigger MRs, so I think that's a shame. I'm hoping they do it somewhere in the back end and we other competitors don't see it, but I doubt they do it often enough. Whenever I go to speak at conferences or for students, I teach at master programs and things like that. I don't talk about the research first. I talk about the broader picture of what did this do for marketing, and then you trigger, and then you say, I didn't know you could do this with research. Even whether it's statistics, quant or qual, really doesn't matter. And I think we should just reverse the equation more and say, this is what we've done, these were the effects, and then how you do it. So we're always talking about how great of a methodology we have, which is important, but it shouldn't be the first selling point. So I think we can improve a lot on that.
I think we've, as an industry, have certainly developed a lot of admirable methodologies, and we've got academics who've validated those methodologies, but we've tended to basically just bring the data. And we heard this morning from the client panel that, yes, the data is important, and maybe even surrendering the data so that clients can do their own analysis is helpful, but we've really got to distill it down into something that clients can use. We're not there just to do research and bring numbers and prove that we can, ride the SPSS horses to the end of the course. We're there to help clients understand how to make better business decisions. And I don't think we've done a really good job of marketing the fact that that's what we really do.
Agreed. I think two things. One, what's interesting is for any of us who've been in the industry for a while, you see, I wouldn't call it revolution, but certainly evolution and lots of change. And it feels like, from a supplier perspective, and the way that we talk about our companies very much follows the way that corporate research departments start talking about themselves within their organizations. And certainly that's been changing over time. I think that a lot of our clients have either changed their name or certainly trying to broaden their purview within their organizations to get, let's say they already have a seat at the table, but to really make that seat a power seat at the table, and to make sure that they and their department are really involved in driving business decisions, and they are the trusted partners. So what I see is that it's sort of like your analogy to downhill, as those departments change. I think our marketing message is changing, the way that we view ourselves change. The one other huge area of opportunity in terms of branding our industry is down into the college level and even the high school level. I mean, you just don't meet too many people, young people that are aspiring to be market researchers or insights professionals, even though you do see in various media and publications that it's actually a pretty hot career right now, and it covers a tremendous array of responsibilities and activities. So I think there's a huge opportunity for us as an industry to reach down and really generate some excitement at the undergraduate level to talk about what it is and get more really bright people into the industry.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said before me. I think that it's interesting because I've heard the responses before me say, we're doing an okay job. I'd agree with that. I think the one thing that we do well, by way of background, I mainly come from pharma, so I think about things in terms of pharmaceutical market research. the industry associations tend to do a pretty good job of trying to push forward in terms of a consistent definition. At the same time, it's interesting, I think that, some of you may agree or disagree with me that the change that I see within market research is that market research and consulting, your classic management consulting, are kind of blurring lines. People are being asked to go deeper with the insights and act more like, your traditional McKinsey's and so forth. And it's actually interesting because I sit on a board. If you Google or Bing or however you look me up, you'll know which board that I sit on. So I kind of feel awkward saying this, but one of the questions that actually came up was, should a company like McKinsey or a classic market research consulting firm be allowed to attend these market research, conferences within the pharmaceutical industry, which I was baffled that there was even discussion about whether somebody would be allowed in or not. I think it shows that there are some traditionalists out there that are still kind of stuck with the way that they think about classic market research being different from consulting. And I think that in order to move forward, we really need to continue to evolve. And I think that's what we can do better, is really focus on the consulting aspect of what we deliver to our end clients.
All right. So collectively, which was the question, I would say we're not doing too good. And I think there is an awareness that that is the case. But look, we all understand statistics. We all understand majority rule. So I would say we find ourselves in an industry at this time, which you can either say we're not doing it very well, or you could say there's tremendous opportunity. And at Gondas, we actually think there is. So much so that we actually are trying to redefine the space that we work in. We actually do not believe that we should sell ourselves short going into our future in the near term and the long term and calling it market research. So you will hear a little bit about that later on. But some of the keynotes from the market research events of the world and IIRs, which by the way, they know they're having an identity problem right now, AMA, MRA, even ARF, tracking, you know what I mean? Advertising, everything is changing right now. And those in the industry know it. We know it. We have to be able to admit to ourselves that it's okay. Where we've been is not a bad thing. We are all here today. We're having these discussions. But if we continue to call this industry market research or marketing research, we will not necessarily have a future beyond.
One of the panelists in the previous panel said he wants to work with people, not brands. How do you, in your marketing, how do you see others in their marketing in our industry balance the marketing of the brand versus the individuals in that company?
All right, so this is a great question, and I have a good example of this. I just flew here from Michigan at our first ever client summit. Okay, day and a half of getting our clients together in a very confidential setting. First for us, okay? One of our clients from US Bank got up there in one of our, let's do an emotional connections exercise before we all go off and drink and have an amazing dinner. Let your hair down. This is okay. Tell us what your problems are. We're all going to be in this with you. And she said, it's about the person. I have a relationship with someone, and if they're smart, because this woman is extremely smart, right, head of global insights for US Bank, if they're smart and I have that relationship, I'm going to go with them. And my colleague and I, as we were driving here in the cab, said, well, that is important. But any given single person can be amazing and a wonderful brand, but they cannot do a whole lot without an army of great people behind them. So the people and the individual brands are extremely important. And as Susan was getting at, not every market researcher is an extrovert, and they're not willing to do it, and they're not willing to build their personal brand. Someone in the organization has to do that. Your people, your thought leaders, whether it starts with them having a blog and building their 6,000 followers, it's very important to have your personal brands in the company as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with the point that it's the personal connection, the aspect. But I truly believe that the brand is king, and you can't just let individuals operate, and even if they're the key opinion leaders in the industry, operate in silos, become bigger than the brand. I heard the comment from the earlier group, and I was flip-flopping back and forward in terms of what's more important. The people, I've been with companies where I brought clients with me when I went to other places, but I also, the people stayed at other companies because of the methodologies and because of the breadth of what a larger organization can bring. And even at times, it's the reputation, of a company like an Ipsos or something that you're actually buying. Even though it's the individuals that are actually executing the work, at the end of the day, it's the confidence that, you're not going out and putting your, butt on the line to go out and try something new with a new organization. Your boss says, oh, I know Ipsos, therefore it's going to be a trusted entity. So, for me, it's kind of a balance between the two, but I'd always say that brand is king.
And I think for us, it's a lot about the people. I think, there must be some magic continuum where at some point the brand takes over the people, but I think for a company our size and certainly smaller, it's really, it's Jim working with Nancy. It's not so much RTI working with, American Express or whoever the client may be. It's two people working together. And what we do with our marketing efforts is we're really trying to support, to build a brand behind the people, so that from a client perspective, what they see of the brand is aligned with what that individual person is delivering, and it also makes the person delivering the services and the client service person feel very good about that army of people, because it absolutely is true that no one person can deliver everything or can actually even do the work that they might be selling or talking about. But there's got to be that overarching, the brand. So a lot of our marketing efforts really are geared towards our current clients to continue to make them feel very good about the brand that they're working with, in addition to, of course, the person that they're dealing with on a daily basis. So I think, it's kind of interesting, because certainly at some point it is, if you're an Ipsos or something like that, then certainly at some point that brand becomes more important than the person. I'm just not sure where that actually happens.
I want to speak a little bit to the comment that was made about young people not envisioning, a 13-year-old not saying, I want to grow up to be a market researcher. Although historically there certainly were a lot of moms and daughters who were either in, focus group moderation or doing one-on-one interviews. I mean, that was certainly the way the industry evolved in the States for a while. But, we have all these youngsters who are typically doing the heavy lifting when it comes to either programming surveys or securing sample. And they come into an industry, and unless we give them a sense of pride and a sense of aspiration towards a career, not just a job, we don't develop those people who are literally, they're the ones who are typically engaging with clients on a day-to-day basis, throughout a project. And I think that the industry hasn't done a great job, but we're starting. The ARF, it's extraordinary. They have created a Young Pros program, and they have approximately 800 youngsters across the US who are attending breakfasts and lunch and learns and evening events and happy hours, and they're hearing from some of the best and the brightest in the industry. And so we're starting to give younger practitioners something to aspire to be those people who will make the difference in a brand. And I think we just need to continue to do more of it. Neil's talked about how he teaches. I'm sure it's not for the money. But he is regularly inspiring the next generation and showing them what market research can really be. And I think that's critical.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's all about reverse mentoring. It's about giving people the freedom to develop. And yes, I understand the fact that we, need to be careful. Kids coming out of college and polishing their Facebook. But I don't think that's the main issue. If I look at Insights, it's not a one pony show. We've got. I could name you 10 to 12, 15 people that have presented at conferences, that write blogs. We stimulate people to write blogs, to start small, to do internal stuff, to run a webinar. They build experience and they love it. They love it, they see others do it, and it becomes contagious within your company. And I know that even if we're 130 people, but we've been doing it from the very first day. Insights was founded by 4 guys, and I happened to be one of them, and we were guerrilla guys. By the way, we started our company, and one of the things we did, we still have the original business plan, and the first line said, we do not want to be market researchers. But we ended up there. But the way we ended up there was, and I love research, by the way. I was classically trained, but we were in a business that we didn't, confine to research. And I've learned, if you know people, some of you may know Tom Derek. He's one of the most influential guys on social media, and it's a deliberate choice, and he likes doing it. And I have other researchers in our company that are as good, even better than him, but they prefer to do other stuff. So it's really about a portfolio, and spread it out and give the people the freedom to do it. It's tremendous what you can achieve with that.
Great. And when it comes to marketing to clients in different geographic locations, you came from Europe over to New York. Tell us a little bit about some of those considerations and maybe best practices when marketing maybe outside your home country.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we're an online agency, so it's easier to speak wherever we are, because it's we don't have physical legacies or facilities or call centers. So from a purely operational perspective, that's easy or easier. And with social media, you just gain traction. So by being at conferences, by organizing webinars, by publishing the cases, by publishing books, you get invites from all over the world, and then you choose. And that's the other thing. We have, sometimes I don't feel like going to Singapore, but I'm sure I have one of my guys that wants to do it. They jump for it. So then give that opportunity. So if you have a portfolio, you can shift gears. Now, going to other countries, we've opened our office about 2.5 years ago here, and obviously it has to be a mix, because one of the reasons why I'm here, and we took a couple of colleagues, is because you want to transfer your culture. It's all about the people. I think that's definitely it in our case, but it's mixing that as soon as possible with local talent. So for us, the best way it's worked, both from a marketing as well as an HR perspective, is if you can hire people, from the junior level, and have them work their way up. Obviously, the U.S. is quote unquote closer to Europe, so understanding the culture is not that much of a challenge. Obviously, if you talk about ESPN and media, you need to get into it, but that's pretty easy. Again, since we're online, we also have a network of which is also a marketing tool, by the way. We have a network we do a lot of communities. We have a network of moderators all over the world in 40 plus countries that are certified and trained in how we work. And that brings a lot of value for us of sensing, what's happening in Brazil while we don't have a physical office there. But you also have to be close, because again, one of the reasons I'm here, I'm a shareholder, and if you open up an office here, it's so important. I have to be close to the business, to the clients, to the market. But it's worked out pretty well. But again, because of that portfolio, and because we, amongst each other, say you do this role, I do this role, definitely also from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, well, when I joined Brain Juicer in 2008, we had offices in London, in Holland, and we had a very nascent office in the US. We now have offices, client-facing offices, in 14 cities globally. So there are things that I never thought I'd have to think about when it comes to marketing globally. And it's as mundane as we're doing a webinar. Okay, is it a bank holiday in Singapore on that day, and has the clock changed? So is London now 5 hours ahead or 4 hours? So that there's just pragmatic issues. Oh my God, yeah, and military time versus the way we express time here in the U.S. That's mundane stuff. We have chosen as a company to use English as our business language, but there's British English and there's American English, and they're just there's so many issues to think about when you have to do global marketing. But you know, frankly, we work for multinationals. We don't work, with few exceptions, for companies that I would think of as domestic. So we have to speak an international language of understanding our clients, and then we have to understand the cultures in which we do business. And it's everything from people in India don't really attend webinars to the fact that in the UK, to visit our farthest reaching client, it might be a 3-hour train ride. In the US, if my New York team wants to go to Kansas City to see a client, they've just given up 2 days of their lives. So it's a pragmatic as well as a very strategic and intellectual exercise to be marketing a market research company globally. I would say children, do not try this at home.
And while we have global clients, our marketing efforts are really focused in the U.S. So nothing to add to these guys.
This does take time. Like, we're organizing what we call Smarties. They're thought leadership sessions. We're just running one in Singapore in a couple of weeks. We've got over 40 attendees. Doing one in the UK is actually, or New York, is more challenging, because just of the simple fact of the matter that in New York you've got free stuff to do every day if you really want to. So yes, there are differences, but it's about experimenting. We've done stuff where, you know, we said, oops, we have 3 people showing up. But then, you know, you be creative on the spot, you make it something special. And one of the things that was mentioned in the previous panel was word of mouth. And then you play on that. So there is trial and error, and it's about experimenting. And if you don't go out and experiment, you won't push your boundaries either. So.
We actually market, we have facilities and direct client communication in US, UK, France, and Germany, so we have a lot of experience. I think the original question was about best practices, and I think I can just, you know, hopefully they don't sound too common sense, but they're around, you know, content, culture, and translation. You know, it's really interesting. We talk about, you know, content, even if you're launching a webinar, you know, asking yourself, does the content that I'm launching in one country actually play out? Does it even make sense to the other countries? You know, but I think from a best practices standpoint, the translation, if you are translating a concept that you're starting here in the US and just simply translating it, you know, to French for France, it's really making sure that the translators that you're hiring not just understand how to translate the language, but they understand market research, you know, and understand that intersection, so that you can also get feedback on whether this is going to play out in the marketplace. And also keep it in mind that oftentimes you're marketing to folks that, you know, also have clients that are going to be across multiple countries, so they're actually going to be seeing your different campaigns, you know, in the different languages and the different cultures, and making sure that they all, you know, tie back together.
So I'm actually going to build on what you said, Rob. In addition to the logistical things that you were talking about, Susan, which are so incredibly important, because if you get GMT or EST or something wrong, like, no one's going to show up at your webinar, right? We get that. So, but beyond that, I think what could be potentially even more risky is offending someone from another culture. So cultural nuances and sensitivities as marketers are extremely important. And I do have an example of this, and my vice president of global, who does want an office in Italy or Florence one day, and it will happen. He swears, he asks our CEO all the time, but we are currently just in the US. We were doing something, it was a global piece, and I honestly can't recall, but we wanted to use a great image of this symbol, okay? Right, and I'm pretty sure in Brazil it means something else. Exactly. Lucy is saying yes. So, you know, as a marketer, and at the end of the day, I'm held accountable and I'm held responsible. And this image was beautiful, and it used the right palette, and it used everything. And we thought, I'm just going to go do a check on this, all right? It could have potentially been very offensive. And of course, no one intended it to be that way, and we didn't. But my advice would always be, I don't care if you're even in the Midwest, which we are, a Midwest company, you know, we're nice, no one else is out there. Silliness, you know. You've got to know your regions. You've got to know their triggers. You've got to know your countries. We once went into Australia and we're doing an online community, and you were saying there's Australian English. Australians didn't even want to do this community. You know, I used to work for 7 Network Australia, and we think they're just like us. They're not. They look like us, they talk like us, but culturally they're different, and their habits are different as well. So that's my advice there.
I think we have time for some questions. Grab the mic.
Thank you. What types of marketing activities do you think today, in today's world, are gaining the most traction with clients?
What types of
Marketing activities do you think are gaining the most traction with clients, that are taking the most notice of or becoming the most engaged with?
Okay. And I know the client panel addressed some of that, and events sort of came there in word of mouth and what have you. Word of mouth is extremely important for us, because when one of our clients knows us and has built up that relationship and moves from Best Buy to Coca-Cola, guess what? It's only going to take 6 months to a year before we're penetrating Coca-Cola, okay? So that's very important. But beyond that, I think it's having those events like I just talked about, where you can get your clients in a situation where they can cross-collaborate with your other clients, learn, share, confidence amongst each other. And I think someone on the client panel did say that. Talk to us about what you're doing for another client. But I don't want to be the messenger of that. I want to put my client from Coca-Cola in front of my client from General Motors and have them understand and learn. And I want to be, you know, the person or the conduit to that additional learning.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I've seen, I actually was thinking about the same thing. The non-traditional, of course, you go through traditional channels, but I've seen a lot of my inside company clients holding off-site summits, you know, client summits, and actually, you know, these aren't your, you know, PMRGs and, you know, conferences like we're at here today. They're private functions where you're bringing your client base together and offering them some value add, and people are like, oh, that seems pretty cool. You've got, you know, about 20 people. Allows them to cross collaborate. It's a very informal setting. Allows, you know, of course, you're going to, you know, stock the room with some people that are, you know, very friendly and have had great experiences with you to, you know, kind of put it there. But I think that that's the non-traditional thing that I've seen that's been most effective amongst my clients.
And I guess it's not so unique. We do that. We also have a client symposium along the lines of what Rob and Sue were talking about. I think, you know, if you think about it more broadly, I think, or what we have found is effective are things that we as suppliers to our clients can do to help them be more successful. So sometimes it is giving them a forum where there is no other forum like it, like what we're talking about. Webinars that really educate, that fill a gap that otherwise isn't being filled. Any kind of education, maybe helping them educate their team. So a lot of the marketing that we do is really focused on providing something that would be of value to the clients that they can use to, that would ultimately help to support their success.
I'd sort of flip the question around and say that in my experience, there's a declining value to exhibit at a trade show. And we as a company just have made a policy, we just don't do it. We are seeing a lot of our clients, we're facing bans on travel that's not completely mission critical to the company. And so even if there's great content at a conference, it's harder and harder for our clients to get the approval for not only the ticket to the event, but for the travel. So we just don't view exhibiting at a trade show to be to be really great for return on investment. But definitely the kinds of things that the other panelists have talked about, the summits, the small intimate meetings where clients get to talk to other clients and prospects, we see those as really valuable. Sometimes very hard to organize, but
Just to clarify, I think that some of the points we were making up here.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, I'm sorry, I'm just going to paraphrase. What types of marketing activities have we seen to be most effective in the marketplace? And we actually flipped it on its side to be the least effective. Hopefully I captured that properly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, just to clarify, and then I believe that the question was, it seems like there's a lot of support for the organizations, even though we've heard a lot of belief that there's a lack of return on investment in terms of exhibiting at conferences. And I just want to clarify a point that I think, at least I was making, I believe you were making as well. We're not talking about, or at least I'm not talking about the industry sponsored events. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that exhibiting at those is often, it all starts with, I talked about the food chain before, when the end clients aren't there, the inside suppliers aren't there, and then the data collection suppliers aren't there, it's just all going, kind of downhill, and it's a poor model. What I'm talking about is actually holding your own summit, your own conference, if you will, even if you're looking at outlaying some money to bring your clients or potential clients in to meet with others. I've seen these as small as 5, 10 folks. I've seen them as grand as up to about 50, 60 folks. But these are almost privately sponsored events as opposed to industry sponsored. Is that what you're talking about as well?
Yeah, that distinction. Does that help? Industry sponsored.
Beyond the events.
Yes.
What other marketing activities would you see clients are engaged with Whitefield first, and those going by the wayside? What other marketing activities?
I think it's really a mix. I mean, it's a marketing mix. So we do events. We have books that we publish. Ben, I don't have a book this time. We have white papers, and some are longer, some are shorter, webinars, and there's I think it's segmented as well. Some people like to go to conferences, others like webinars, or they just choose for webinars the ones that like to go to a conference because of a different context and it doesn't fit their agenda. So the more opportunity you put out there, the better. We have like our CEO and other managing partner have over 8,000 and 10,000 followers on Twitter. There's a number of other people that have maybe a couple thousand. Does that bring something directly to the table? It's hard to pinpoint, but it just builds your brand. And so I think you need that portfolio, and that's provide that opportunity, and that's what works. So it's more the mix. It's not that one thing. Having said this, and it's actually maybe a re-extension of an invite, Susan. One of the things we did in the Netherlands with Brain Juicer and Blau Research, if you may know, was a joint event. I mean, Insights and Brain Juicer are quote-unquote head-on competitors in many ways. A lot of respect. If we're on in an RFP, we'll each of us do our stinking best, as we say in Dutch, to get it. But there's huge respect for each other. The fact that we organized Insights, Brain Juicer, and Blau as head-on competition, I think this was 2005 or 2004. We did it twice and tried it in London as well, I think. We did it. Anyway, the room was packed, and there were mutual clients, and people came up to me, and I know from John to him as well, saying, the fact that you do this together as competitors is extremely attractive. And you have to give each other space. So you have to manage the content and say, this is what you're going to talk about, this is what we're going to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to do it again, if we can make it work.
You heard it here.
Yeah, so, but that works really well. But it takes partnership. Sorry.
But I think, the notion, potentially, we're all competitors in this room today. But I think that we are collaborators in a common goal, and that is to continue to make our industry relevant to our clients and not surrender to the big data champions who say why do you need insights if you've got data? And so when we talk about collaborating, every time I see Niels, he kisses me 3 times because that's the way you do it in Holland.
Belgium, by the way.
Oh, sorry, I said but we've got a common enemy, and that is the industry not maintaining its relevance. So yes, we may compete for business, but I think we all have an interest in being collaborators to keep the industry healthy.
Thank you. We're going to have to end it on that note. Thanks, everyone. We're going to go to our networking break now, and thank you to our panel of research